Hey everybody, welcome to Q Plus EDU 2021. I am super excited for this evening's session. Got my red lipstick, my big hoop earrings, my push-up bra. I am ready for sex ed round 2. So I'm super excited to be joined by our panelists from the Kind Clinic and from Jane's Due Process. I'll let y'all introduce yourselves and then we will jump into the questions that we got from the audience ahead of time. So Stephen, if you want to kick us off, please.
Hi, my name is Stephen Tamayo. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am the Outreach and Testing Manager for the Kind Clinic here in Austin.
Fantastic. Thank you, Stephen.
Hi, my name is Eleanor. Pronouns are she, her. I'm the Program Manager at Jane's Due Process.
Thank you, Eleanor.
My name is HK Gray. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the Peer Support Group Leader at Jane's Due Process.
Awesome. I'm so excited to have y'all's expertise. I don't remember if I introduced myself. My name's Frederick. My pronouns are they, them. I am Out Youth Texas Gender and Sexuality Alliance Network Coordinator. And yeah, we've got a bunch of audience questions that I'll throw to y'all and you can popcorn around and answer whoever feels most equipped. So our first question from the audience, my school doesn't have sex ed. How do I advocate for this with my teachers, with my, who do I even talk to?
So my initial instinct is to say, get a group of like-minded friends together and start a club of some sort and find a teacher who is willing to be that support for that club. And the club can be called whatever you would like it to be called. And the mission can be to advocate for sexual education on campus, among other things. And that way the school administrators know that there is a strong desire on campus for that. And so that they can seek additional resources in a formal way now that there's like a group that's been created. Trying to think, I know organizations like Planned Parenthood go out to campuses as well to give presentations when the school itself doesn't have a sexual education program. So that could be something that somebody could look into about how to get a representative from that organization there to speak with, either their club or if they can do it with their class. That's all I can think of.
That's an awesome idea. I love that. Eleanor, what are you thinking?
I think it's a little bit more complicated for talking about abortion in Texas public schools, right? We can talk about a little bit about birth control now that the SBOE has allowed birth control to be part of the curriculum. But for the most part, it's been pretty challenging. However, because of our targeted ads that we use at Jane's Due Process and our presence on social media like TikTok and Instagram, we've actually been invited by young people that have created groups like it's not affiliated with their school. It's just like youth that like to volunteer and they invite us every quarter to come talk to their friends. So it's almost like they have a house party of their own on Zoom and they just want to learn and they have the opportunity to volunteer with us if they want on our hotlines because we wanted to include more young people as volunteers in our work, and we have the liability insurance to actually be able to support them to be involved with us. So if they want to get involved, they can do it that way, but unfortunately we're not allowed in the public schools.
Piggybacking off what Eleanor said, yeah, it's very difficult to talk about abortion in public school. It's not really accepted. What I did when I was in high school is we actually had a very tight-knit group, and we would kind of in the bathrooms, we would put up information basically on where you can get birth control, things like that. And we were able to do that for a little bit until, we ended up getting caught and we couldn't do that anymore. So just trying to find ways like that where you may not be able to have a designated class that has all this stuff in there, but maybe you can find other ways of having that information be spread around the school.
Which is a great way to also include airdropping. If you have an iPhone, you are allowed to airdrop information to your classmates. It's a thing that people do during lunch of sending memes, more like harassment, but you could also, I don't know, just have a group setting where like you airdrop information to each other in an area that's less than 10 feet away. Like you can have a airdrop party about sex ed. It's anonymous. They can't see what phone it comes from. Or you can change your identity or your name and stuff. But that's an option. They can't stop airdrop.
That's so cool and sneaky. I love it. I'm over here like thinking like archaic, like, oh, go to the school board and tell the school board that you want sex ed. We know how well that works in Texas. So we still definitely encourage it, because what you say when you testify at school board meetings goes on the record. And so then they have an official record that says students are asking for sex ed. But all these other ideas are way better. I'm so glad we asked y'all. This is why we bring in experts. All right, let's see. All right, you want to start with a hardball or with the softball question?
Let's do the hard one first. Get it out of the way.
There's a few of them.
Oh, okay.
So how can I tell if I'm being too rough with my partner?
Ask your partner. That's the number one way to find out if you're being too rough. Just continually checking in with your partner and making sure that they are still enjoying it. Maybe if we need to move on to something else that's a little bit more gentler, or if we can continue doing what we're doing.
I think it's important to have a conversation beforehand. Basically, we're both partners, just have a conversation about what it is that they're into, what it is they're not into, and also having safe words so that if it does become too rough, like while you're in the act, then someone can use a safe word, and then it's easily communicated that, that person's not enjoying that anymore. And then afterwards, just like kind of having, I know sometimes it's a little awkward, but kind of having like a Q&A, like, oh, did you enjoy that? What did you not enjoy? And that way you can have more feedback and you can end up having a more enjoyable time.
I have nothing to add. I echo everything that has been said. I think consent is really important, and it's ongoing, right?
I love that. Thanks, y'all. So that leads us pretty nicely into the next question. How do you know if something that you like to do is a fetish or normal?
I would say maybe checking in with people that you trust and feel comfortable sharing that information with, and asking, have you ever heard if, do you know anybody who is into this specific thing? Because I think I might like it and I don't know how to feel about that. And that's okay. And you can explore those feelings with someone that you trust. Just to kind of to do some informal research, amongst friends or trust ones. And then from there, you can kind of gather whether or not it's a fetish or something that's more socially acceptable. But that's probably what I would do if I was wondering about that.
I think that's a really great question. And then for someone that may not just be comfortable having that conversation with anyone, I would recommend them to reach out to Scarletine. They have a text line. You can also ask anonymous questions on to Scarletine. There's also a few other resources, like Planned Parenthood has a text hotline, as well as Jane's Due Process. And that gives you like an anonymous ability to ask questions that you don't feel comfortable like maybe talking to someone in person about. Is a really great resource.
Yeah, I agree with the hotlines option. If you have people in your life that you're very comfortable with and you can talk to, that's a great option. But sometimes, just because you have people close to you, they may not be as experienced as as you would want. So having access to a hotline would really help.
I guess it kind of depends on how freaky your friends are on whether what you're asking is normal or not. Awesome. Let's see. Ooh, here's a good question. If I test positive for an STD, will the clinic tell my past partners that they need to get tested, or do I have to do it?
No, there are certain privacy laws that are in place that prevent a clinic from sharing that information with your partner. So your information is safe with that clinic. However, there are services available through the health department where a representative from the health department can reach out and offer what's called partner services, which is essentially where they notify your partners on your behalf, but they do it anonymously. So it's a service that's available to folks. You don't have to use it, but it is available to you. There are also anonymous texting websites. So you just put in your partner's number and what they might have been exposed to. And then there's a little form that you fill out with your information, and it sends an anonymous text to them. The information that you put about yourself is just for verification. So, you can't use it as a prank because that's not nice. But if you truly wanted to inform somebody about going to go get tested and you wanted to keep it anonymous, that is something that you could do as well.
That's super cool and great to know. Do you know how do you go about getting that service from the health department if the health department isn't where you did your testing?
Most times the health department will actually reach out to you before you have a chance to reach out to them. They're pretty quick about that kind of stuff, just because, they want people to get tested and treated, just so that, folks aren't unknowingly passing STIs to their partners.
I don't have anything to add. I think Stephen said it the best.
I agree. And I think as someone who formerly worked in domestic violence, they would not share that information because it might not be safe for you to disclose that information, especially if you were in an unhealthy or abusive relationship where your partner may retaliate.
Yeah, definitely a good thing to keep in mind. Let's see, what else do we have? Ooh, here we go. I don't like putting chemicals in my body. Are there any natural things I can do to prevent pregnancy and STIs? I don't think orange essential oils are going to help much, but.
Do you want to take this, HK, or I can take it if you would like?
Can you take it? And then I'll piggyback after you.
Absolutely. So one thing is there's barrier methods, right? Like condoms, both internal, external condoms are an option. It does not involve chemicals. There's latex, and then there's non-latex ones if you have a latex allergy. So it's really important to see if maybe a condom didn't work in the past because you were unaware that you had an allergy to latex. So it could be helpful to try on a non-latex one. There's a really great resource called Texas Wears Condoms. They'll ship you free condoms to anyone in Texas. And I believe AIDS Austin also will ship out condoms via mail to anyone in the 5 counties of Central Texas as well. So that's really helpful. If someone doesn't have access to a car, they can use that and have it delivered to them. And there's other things like a copper IUD, Paragard, is not a chemical. It doesn't have any estrogen or progesterone. So it's also an option. And, abortion is also an option, right? Abortion is birth control. And it's also an option if you are pregnant and do not want to be pregnant. Abortion is a great option, and it's okay to use an abortion as birth control. There's also FAM, what they call, it's a fertility awareness method. It's not as effective, but it does require you to be more knowledgeable about your body and how your body is, if you're ovulating or not, that is also another option. And if it fails, abortion is always an option. And that does not involve hormones.
Really quickly, I wanted to just go back. I forgot to mention the website of the anonymous text service that I said earlier. It's tellyourpartner.org. While I'm talking about websites, you mentioned, Eleanor, the website where you can order condoms, Texas Force condoms, and then Vivint Health. They were formerly known as AIDS Services of Austin. Now they're known as Vivint Health. So you can go to store.vivanthealth.org and you can purchase at-home testing kits. You can order condoms, lube, dental dams. I think they even have vibrating rings at one point. I'm not too sure. I haven't checked the store, so forgive me if the inventory is a little off. But you can also go into any of the free clinics like Vivint Health, Kind Clinic, Ashwell, Center for Health Empowerment, Planned Parenthood. Most of them have condoms in their lobbies, and you can just walk into the lobby and take the free supplies. You don't have to be seeking services that day to get the free supplies. That's what they're there for.
That's awesome. So for the mailing services, do you have to be 18?
I don't believe so.
I think for Texas Wears Condoms, they just started a new program where you can request an HIV test. I think it's on the honor system, so they don't confirm whether what you put in there was correct or not. So there is an 18 or over requirement. However, they don't verify or confirm the information.
But if you're just ordering condoms, you can be under 18.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Vivint Health website right now, and it doesn't say anything about age. All they want to know is where to ship it.
Awesome. And then should we be concerned about the Texas heat and like condoms sitting in the back of an Amazon truck?
It's actually not in an Amazon truck. They have a bubble wrap. And I don't know if Texas Wears Condoms will like put it on their Instagram stories when they are restocked and when they're shipping. So if you know it's coming, I would definitely run to your mailbox as soon as possible. But there is always that risk, right? Of it not being.
And the condoms have a pretty stable shelf life. They have to be exposed to heat for a very long period of time before they would start to degrade. So maybe
Good to know in the Texas summer.
Yeah, maybe going into the clinic could be a better starting point because you're going to go pick them up. But if you weren't able to do that, you could do the mail order program.
That's awesome. I think that would be super useful for folks not in cities in Texas. Do you know, have y'all ever used this service? Do you know what kind of packaging they come in? Is it like?
Yeah, it comes in a manila envelope, so it's non-discreet. So if you go to their website, it does, well, if you go to their Instagram handle, they'll show you what it looks like. And it just looks like the manila bubble wrap ones. The thing to know about it though is that they sell out pretty quickly because they're statewide. But they tend to restock about the beginning of the month. So if you go to their website and they're out of stock, that is completely normal. Just follow them on Instagram and like put on the alerts because they'll let people know once they've restocked it. And so that at that moment, you just go on and you place your order. So they do sell out usually by the middle of the month. So just make sure you're at the first of the month, you're there.
You need for social media.
Oh, and I also forgot to mention JDP delivers repro kits to people in Austin and in Lubbock. So you can text our hotline and we will deliver 2 things of Plan B. We deliver 2 pregnancy tests, condoms, as well as the little zine that talks about pregnancy options and to know more about your health of like how soon you will know that you're pregnant. So it's like 14 days after you may have possibly become pregnant. So yeah, it talks about that. We have a text hotline that people can request it. You get 1 kit every 3 months. Yeah. And we'll deliver to anywhere in Central Texas, just about maybe below, maybe not all the way to Bastrop, right? Yeah. I feel like there's like it's delivered by a group called the Bridge Collective. So they are within Austin and some outer areas, but there is so far that they drive. So
I would say if you're close to the edge, just still reach out and ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. So you mentioned Plan B, Eleanor. One of the questions that we had was, is brand name Plan B better than other kinds of emergency contraception?
no, it's not. And generic works just as great. I think what happens though, that people think that generic is not as effective, is that they're not using it correctly. So you have to, use Plan B as soon as possible. Also, if you're over 160 pounds, it may not work for you. So it's also to be mindful, like in that situation, you may want to consider like a Paragard if you're over 160 pounds and you had unprotected sex, or the condom broke, or whatever happened, right? And definitely try to get Paragard, or you could go to a Title X clinic and get Ella, which is it requires a doctor's prescription, unfortunately, but you can get that and it can be free through a Title X clinic as an option.
And I know you've told us before, Eleanor, but how do folks find a Title X clinic near them?
They text James your process. They'll help you out step by step. They'll tell you what to say, how to schedule that appointment. Usually what you'll say is that, I'm a teen, I don't have parental consent for birth control, and I have no money to pay for it. And that will usually allow the scheduler to know that you're going to qualify for care under Title X. Schedulers often don't know federal policy and like how the funding works at an individual clinic. But if you use that, they'll know like how to mark you in their system, and then it'll allow them to make a visit for you.
That's helpful. And are there Title X clinics all over Texas?
There are, and sometimes, there is a high turnover of clinic staff, and sometimes they may not be as knowledgeable about youth sexual and reproductive rights. So if you get turned away from a Title X clinic, please text our hotline. We work closely with Everybody Texas to resolve those issues, because it is a service failure when that clinic does not serve a teen, because teens have access to these services at federal clinics. So text us, we can provide that case management to get it resolved, and you can receive the care that you have a right to.
Jane's Due Process does so much amazing stuff. We're so grateful to have y'all in the community. So that leads very nicely into another question that we had, which was, where did it go? What kind of medical care can people under 18 get in Texas without their parents knowing?
So that's kind of a difficult question. It always depends on whether someone is emancipated or not. In my experience, I was under 18 and I wasn't able to go to the dentist or the doctor without parental consent. At the time, I didn't know about Title X clinics, so I was denied birth control, and I got pregnant at 15, and I had to go through like this push and pull process until I was finally able to, 3 months after I originally got pregnant, till I was finally able to start consenting to my OBGYN and care for both me and my child that I was pregnant with. And a lot of it is people just are kind of misinformed. So sometimes there will be federal things that are put in place so that teenagers and minors can, go and access these things. But a lot of people just aren't educated in that. So sometimes you have to advocate for yourself even more than you would in normal situations. And like, you might even have to, like, it's kind of lame, but you might even have to sit there and like word for word, like say the law so that they understand like, oh, okay, this person understands what they're talking about. And it really just depends. Some doctors are willing to work with you, and then some doctors aren't willing to work with you. It just depends on finding a good doctor that is understanding of the situation.
Minors can also consent to their own HIV and STI testing and treatment without parental consent. So we see a lot of that over at Kind Clinic.
And is there a lower age limit for that?
Technically, I don't believe, I think we've seen as young as 12. There's, you know, it just gets muddy on our part because then there's, you know, mandatory reporting dependent upon, you know, the conversation that we're having. But of course, we're open with that conversation at the beginning, letting them know, you know, what happens here is confidential, you know, except, you know, X.
I think it's also important, and Stephen, you might be able to answer this better, but like young people can get PEP without parental consent. So you can go to a Title 10 clinic, you can go to a KIND clinic to get PEP. PrEP is like a little bit more of a gray area based on how that clinic is interpreting the law. Is that correct, Stephen? I think, right?
Yeah, because it's related to HIV, which is a communicable disease, which allows minors to consent to it. But it's for PrEP is for preventative purposes, whereas PEP is post-exposure. So yeah, I guess it would depend on the clinic.
Y'all are so knowledgeable.
And I think it's like just one thing is that like if you get declined by one clinic, it can be really discouraging, but you really need to learn to step in your power because you have that authority and just try a different clinic. Try a different front desk person. It is very difficult. It's very discouraging, but you do have these rights. You just have to learn to speak with that authority and don't be afraid to ask to speak to the manager. You have rights, and I think it's really important that young people know that it's okay to, you know, ask to speak to their manager, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I think, Stephen, you were talking about like having that friend that you can bounce, you know, questions and ideas off of. I feel like bringing your like super bold friend with you to the clinic is also a great plan because they're the ones who can be like, no, you are going to give them birth control. Like they can be your advocate. So I've definitely done that for a bunch of my friends.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. What should I do ahead of time to prepare for anal sex?
Well, there's lots of things that you can do. It depends on what you're trying to prepare for. So if you're trying to prepare for like the first time, you know, you can buy toys to help with that process to get used to it. If that's not a feeling that you're used to, you can purchase a specific, or not even purchase, you can also get them at the clinic too, like a KIND clinic, a specific type of lube. Because there's water-based, there's silicone. Silicone is not as easily absorbed by the body, so you don't have to stop and reapply it. They also make silicone-based lube that is specifically for anal sex. You can ask your partner to try a few different foreplay techniques, just because, you know, one, it feels good, but it also helps to work up to the moment. And then, you know, having your partner continually check in to make sure that you're doing okay, especially if it is the first time. Starting out slowly with, you know, fingers and toys before you move on to other body parts can definitely be beneficial.
Eleanor, HK, anything you want to add?
I don't have anything to add. I think Stephen did a really great job. AJ, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add, but I do agree that lube is very important. I think it's really like a make it or break it of whether you'll have like, it'll be painful or whether it won't be. The more lube, the happier everyone will be.
Oh, also on that topic, if when you're having anal sex and if you are using a condom, it is important to remember not to use an oil-based product with the condom because the oil will degrade the condom. And so that's why it's important to use a water or silicone-based lubricant with condoms.
And that's true with different kinds of toys too, right? There's different lubes that go with different toys.
So if you're using a silicone toy, it's best to avoid silicone lube because the silicone will degrade the product on itself. So it's best to use water-based lube with toys.
A little complicated.
But is for which, yeah, I need like a little cheat sheet to keep in my wallet.
I know, I feel like somebody's got to have a table made, but like there's got to be like a visual where it's like check.
And I think it's also just important, once again, like you don't need to be 18 to buy toys. They are now selling them at Target, Walmart. that is an option. Usually the adult stores, you have to be 18 or over, but you can go to Target and Walmart where they do sell toys at, as well as you can buy them online as well. But you don't, I think there might be a misconception that you have to be 18 to buy, but you don't.
Steven, who's visiting you?
This is Jackie.
Oh.
Partner's cat.
So beautiful. Oh, we love a furry visitor. All right. Ooh, are any fruits or vegetables safe to use to masturbate?
I would say if you truly had nothing else to use, to maybe perhaps put a condom on it instead of putting it into your body without that form of protection. But it's best to get a toy instead of using food products, just because depending on what the food is, it could break off into your body, and that's never a good thing. Plus, some fruits, fruits are more sugary, and depending on what body part you're inserting that food into, could not be pleasant a couple of days later.
A yeast infection, a UTI, who knows?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that could happen.
Good to know. Let's see. I've got a couple more questions here that were submitted ahead of time. What's the difference between the different kinds of abortion?
So we have medication abortion, which that one is you take a series of pills. You take a couple at the clinic and they have to watch you take it for like legal reasons. And then you have a little bag that you would bring home and then continue the abortion wherever you feel safe. And that one simulates more of like a natural miscarriage. A lot of people choose that option for more privacy reasons. And it just is more natural. It's like a more natural way for your body to handle that. And then there are also 2 surgical abortions. And surgical sounds scary, but it's not as scary as it actually is, as it actually sounds like. It's normally the suction method, and that can be taken until 15 weeks. And that's just gentle suction, and it's normally over in like 5 to 10 minutes. Mine was over in 6 minutes. And it seems really scary, but it really isn't. There are people there that help you and kind of calm you down during it. And then I'm not as informed on the one for later stages. So Eleanor, can you help me out here?
Yes, the other one is D&E. And I think the important thing to talk about that one too is that there was recently a ruling at the Fifth Circuit that has upheld a Texas law that passed about 3 years ago that has now banned D&E. Or there's there has to be fetal demise before it can be used. It's really unclear, but a D&E usually takes about 2 days. They have to insert laminarias. It's one of the most common medical abortions, and it's completely safe.
Thank you. And then another question related to abortion. What does SB 8 mean for people who need abortions in Texas?
Do you want to go first, HK? Or do you want me to go first?
I could see you eyeing me. I think it would be best if you explain it, and then like more of the actual law itself, because that's always super confusing. And then I can talk a little bit about what that actually means in practice.
Okay, sounds good. So SB 8 was passed during the 87th legislative session at the Texas legislature. And basically what it does is that it bans abortion at 6 weeks. It's important to know that it doesn't criminalize a person having the abortion that has, if like in theory has it after 6 weeks, right? It's being enforced by everyday people on the street who suspect that someone may have had an abortion after 6 weeks, they can take them to civil court and sue for up to $10,000. I said that all wrong. They can sue anyone that helps a person get an abortion after 6 weeks for up to $10,000. And it's a civil liabilities court where it's going to go. So it's not going to be, the state of Texas isn't going to come and like audit the clinics. And I don't think they are. Yeah, it's just basically people can use that as a form of harassment to really isolate someone from like their support network or people that are supporting them in accessing an abortion. I think it's when we think about intimate partner violence, it's another way to continue to isolate people from the support systems and have their autonomy removed.
And in practice, basically, this means that the anti-choice protesters that, stand outside of clinics and just people that, follow the anti-choice rhetoric in general, that means they're kind of emboldened. So that means they might be more aggressive and more disrespectful to you while you're walking towards the clinic. Some tips I have is if you or anyone that you know is going to have an abortion and you're going to support them or you're the person themselves, I think it's important to not wear any identifying clothes, like don't wear a school outfit or something that has your school name on it, anything like that. It's also best to use like a taxi service or Uber so that there's no way that they can trace your license plates and things like that. And just like don't engage with them. They don't need to know your name. They don't need to know anything about you. And that's the type of stuff that they're going to try and figure out. They're going to be very rude, disrespectful. They're going to try and get as much information on you as they possibly can while you're going into the clinic. And so just try to stay as anonymous as possible and wait until you get into the clinic and tell clinic staff all the information that they need. And really, this law is just made to create fear and confusion because a lot of people think that this is an outright ban. This is not just civil law cases. They think this is a outright ban that Texas itself is going to legislate, and that is not true. It's just, the anti-choice people that are going to be, calling and mailing and putting all this information out there about you. So just try and stay as anonymous as possible when you're going to the clinic and just don't engage with them. They don't deserve your time or your energy.
And I think one of the things, how it's going to impact young people in particular is that, most people find out they're pregnant about 6-7 weeks. The judicial bypass process, if you don't have parental consent, takes up to 5 weeks now. We're seeing an additional week as a result of the pandemic. So if someone's at 6 weeks and they have to go through the bypass process, it's going to be like 4 to 5 weeks. It's usually 5 weeks if you're from a rural area and don't have access to reliable transportation. You'll be at 12 weeks. And so it really makes it very difficult for young people that don't have a parent who can provide consent or a support network, including like foster youth as well, whose guardian is the state of Texas.
And so with the way the law is written, would the judge then be considered someone who's supporting the youth having an abortion?
That's why they're going to a court. So there is a lawsuit that has been filed. And we did do a congressional briefing. Yes, this morning our case manager did. And I guess we'll see by September 1st, what is the outcome?
We might need some drag like facial recognition software, like blurring makeup tutorials.
Yeah, the other thing that's also kind of scary is Texas Right to Life has already created a form where they're trying to crowdsource information about anyone that has supported someone getting an abortion. So far, it's been they've been getting spammed a lot by people on the internet, and their website keeps going down. But it sounds like they put a VPN on it so that only people in Texas can put in a they call it an abortion whistleblower hotline, a tip. So yeah.
But that shouldn't stop Texans from sharing their favorite cat memes.
Well, they actually disabled the ability to upload video or photos because they were getting so much spam. Apparently, there were a lot of people that were uploading Shrek porn onto the forum, and it like brought down their website multiple times. And so they removed that option. They also limited it to 500 characters. So because people were just like putting in entire film movie scripts, like copy paste in. And so it would like overwhelm their system and their database would go down. So like they're finally understanding more about technology. Boomers.
So then they're gonna base these civil lawsuits on 500 characters.
Yes, with no photos or video evidence.
Good to know. Good to know. Sounds very well executed. All right, let's see. What other questions do we have from our audience? We did that one and that one. It looks like we might have gotten through all of our questions that we had. Yeah, I think that was everything that the audience had asked ahead of time. So thanks, y'all. We did it. So I would love to open the floor and give y'all a chance if there's any tips, tricks, suggestions, resources y'all want to share with our audience. We would love, y'all are so knowledgeable, and we'll definitely make sure that we include all of the resources and links on the webpage when we upload the video as well. But if there's anything that hasn't been mentioned yet that y'all want to share out, we would love to hear your suggestions.
I guess just to plug my organization, if you're interested in any of the services that we offer at Kind Clinic, we do have 2 locations in Austin and 1 location in San Antonio. The website is kindclinic.org. If you live outside of those areas, you can visit mytelekind.org. It is one of the programs of Texas Health Action, which is our parent organization. And you can receive some similar services to the services that we offer at Kind Clinic, just, all over Texas. And it's all virtual, and it has a mail order program component to it. So it's a bit more accessible for folks who are just not, in the area where we have a brick and mortar building. So those are my 2 plugs.
Yay, we love Kind Clinic.
The only thing I have to say is, if you want to have more information in your local area, you can always reach out to your abortion clinics. There are abortion clinics all over Texas, and they all do different areas. Jane's Due Process is awesome, and they do all of Texas, but there are more local abortion funds that can give you more local information. And also, like, if you want to volunteer with them, there's a lot going on in the reproductive rights world right now. And they would all really appreciate more volunteers and more people that can help solicit donations from people that have more money than all of us. Because the more money and the more volunteers we have, the more likely we are going to be able to push back on these bans.
The only thing I would like to share that I think I forgot to mention it when we were talking about Plan B. Amazon, I do not support Jeffrey Bezos, but Amazon sells Plan B for $8 and free 2-day shipping. It's a really great option if you want to have it just in case. And it's not a great option if you're waiting for it to be delivered for you to take it within 2 days, 2 to 3 days. But with that said, that is $8. That is the most affordable option. There are other options, like Costco sells it for, I think, $10, and you don't need a Costco membership to go into Costco to buy it at the pharmacy. It's a very, very affordable option for individuals who have HEB. It's also $20, and your local abortion clinic will also have it for like $25. So that's very cheap. If you go to Target, Walgreens, you're going to be spending like $50. It's not worth it. You should have the most affordable Plan B. Generic brand is great. Also, I think if people are intimidated by going into a pharmacy, like any pharmacy to get it, a lot of pharmacies have drive-throughs. So just drive on through. If they say something really awful, you can just keep driving away. You can say something to them and you can drive away and go to the next place that has a drive-through pharmacy. That's a really great option. But then you can also use like apps like Instacart, and someone can go pick it up and drop it off to you. So that's another option, just because I know social anxiety is real, especially with young people who are maybe having their first sexual encounters. And there's a lot of stigma around youth sexuality. So that's some ways to safety plan a way around it. Also, again, with Amazon, you can send it to an Amazon locker. It does not need to go to your house. You can just walk into a regular 7-Eleven with the code, get it, go, and no one knows what you got. So
That's so smart. I never even thought about like curbside Plan B. Like that's, yeah. It's like the one thing that the pandemic did right. I'm like, hey, we can do curbside. It is possible.
it's
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I'm super, super grateful for you sharing your brilliance and wisdom and all these amazing resources with us. I know it's going to be super helpful for our youth and everyone watching. Yeah, and thank you for everything that you do for Texas. We are so grateful. And we would love to invite y'all to join us for our final session of Q Plus EDU this year. Tomorrow, we are going to be hosting our partners from Texas Freedom Network, the ACLU of Texas, Transgender Education Network of Texas, and our special guest, Lindsay Horvath, the mayor of West Hollywood, California, for a panel called Call Email Lobby, Advocating for the LGBTQIA2+ community with your elected officials. So we'd love to have you all join us for that. And yeah, all of the Q Plus EDU videos from this year should be up in September. I'm going to give myself a minute to caption them all properly and get them into the internet. But yeah, by September, we should have all of this amazing content from this year up on our Q Plus EDU website. So thank you all so much. We're super grateful. And yeah, stay hydrated. Have a good night.